Hello, this is your dog info session to tell you more about dog walking at TLAC, our main location on 1156 West Cesar Chavez. My name is Jess, and I've been volunteering for almost 4 years now, and mostly as a dog walker. You can find me around TLAC most mornings. I open early on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 a.m. Here you can see me with dogs, and that's usually how you'll see me at TLAC as well. But feel free to come up and ask me questions. You also see that I'm wearing a green t-shirt in the first picture, and we have shift leads that we'll get into in a minute that wear those shirts on the nights that they're in charge of the dog walking program. So you have a very clear person to go to if you have any questions. There are lots of different programs at TLAC that enrich the dogs' lives, but the most important one, in our opinion, is the dog walking program, because we're one of the few shelters in this area that gets all of our dogs out twice a day for at least 10 to 15 minutes to make sure they're getting potty breaks and to get a break from the kennel and to get some human interaction so we get to know them a little bit better. So dog walking, as we define it, is ensuring that every dog gets out in a timely manner at least twice a day. Of course, we're not going to limit a dog to 2 walks a day. Ideally, they would get 3 to 4 to 5. But our goal right now is to make sure every single dog gets out at least twice a day. And what that means is taking them out to a play yard until you get more training to make sure that they go to the bathroom and they get human interaction, they get some exercise, maybe they get tired out a little bit, just depending on their activity level. Some dogs want to snuggle, some dogs want to run around, some dogs just want to go to the bathroom and then go back to their kennel because they're more interested in eating, or even just taking a nap on the comfy bed that they already have in their kennel. Like I said before, every dog gets out twice a day, no matter what, unless the kennels are in water, if they flooded. We get all of our dogs out every day, twice a day, no matter what, whether it's playgroup or it's a walk with a volunteer or a staff member. And our main goal is to get all our dogs out before 11 a.m. and after 5 p.m. And to do that, TLAC opens at 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday right now. And we're trying our best to get all of our dogs out before 11 a.m. and we definitely need help from our volunteers to do that. And in the evenings, walks start at 5 p.m. and then they go until all walks are done. So our goal is to get every dog out by 8 p.m., but sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that. So if you can't make it down to TLAC until like 7:30 or 8, there's definitely still stuff for you to do. Our goal is to make sure our staff is out of the building by 9 p.m. So if you can't make it before 9 p.m., then you probably shouldn't head down. But between 7:30 and 8, there's definitely still work to be done. And we always appreciate volunteer help for that. And even if all the dogs of your training level have been out, there's still plenty of other stuff to do. So come on down and check out the whiteboards, which we'll get into in a second. And if all that stuff is done, find somebody in the bright green t-shirt or somebody with a staff t-shirt, and they can get you started on other tasks that make the shelter run day to day. And that's stuff like laundry, it's like washing dishes, it's scrubbing yoga mats. Because you have to remember that we do everything we do on Monday, we'd have to do again on Tuesday. So we have to keep up with the laundry, we have to keep up with the dishwashing, we have to keep up with our enrichment distribution. So there's lots of opportunities, even if you don't necessarily get to walk a dog. So please come down and help us out. If you've walked around TLAC at all, and you might not have made it down yet, but you should, just come on down, we'll get you started. You'll notice that we have about 160 kennels, and most of those dogs are large breed dogs. They're rowdy, they're loud, the shelter is very chaotic. We know that it's chaotic for both humans and for dogs, so just take a deep breath and ask questions. We're here to help you, and we want you to be successful. So I know it can be overwhelming, especially if you don't know who to talk to or the dogs are barking or whatever, but just be sure and stop in Building B, and they will make sure a staff member or volunteer can help you get started. You'll notice that we have a lot of pit bull mixes. We like to call them our short-coated, blocky-headed dogs. There's lots of reasons for that. We save every single dog you see at our shelter comes from the city shelter. We're a closed intake, so we're not taking from the public. We're pulling directly from the city shelter, Austin Animal Center, which is the same thing, and some other local shelters in surrounding areas. But most of our dogs come from the city shelter, and they don't have the same types of training programs that we do. So they're just not equipped in the same way to handle dogs that are jumpy, that are on-leash reactive, that are super shy, that kind of thing. They just haven't implemented those programs yet in their volunteer program. So they don't have a good way of making sure all those dogs get out every single day, twice a day. Whereas we do. So we're going to see a lot of dogs that have behavioral problems. I shouldn't say problems. Behavioral issues that the city shelter isn't capable of working with. So we're going to pull those dogs into our shelter and work with them and make them better and more adoptable. So, and again, like I said, a lot of those are pit bull type dogs. Visual identification is like 0.25% of a dog's DNA. So it's not always accurate, and whoever, if a dog is picked up as a stray, somebody just goes, oh, that looks like a pit bull. But if you DNA test it, it could be like a Chihuahua Bulldog Chow mix. So it really just depends on the person's mood that day if they decide to label it a pit bull or a lab or a pointer mix or something like that, or a I don't know. Okay. Anyway. So some of the reasons that we'll see pit bull mixes, and when a potential adopter stops and asks you and says why there's so many pit bull mixes, these are some of the answers we like to give. If you live in Austin, you know that the housing market is blowing up, and rentals are a very high market. So a lot of rentals don't allow either large breed dogs or blocky-headed dogs or breeds that insurance companies have deemed aggressive breeds. And I put those in air quotes because just because a dog looks like a pit bull doesn't mean that's going to determine its demeanor or its personality. Again, pit bull type dogs are labeled dangerous dogs just because of how they look. And again, visual identification is 0.25% of a dog's DNA. So there's a lot of other factors that go into a dog's personality. And then thirdly, there is a misperception in the media of when a dog bites, everyone just assumes it's a blocky-headed, short-coated dog, aka pit bull. And those are sensationalized a lot more than like your friendly lab-looking dog, being blamed for a dog bite. So just keep all that in mind. All of our dogs, we have a very good handle on their behaviors, so we're never going to put a volunteer, hopefully, in a situation where we don't think they can handle it. So that's why we go through all this time to introduce you to the situation that you're going to get into. And so you can make a good choice if you want to walk large breed dogs, because there's lots of other options too. But just know that we are very aware of dogs' behaviors before they come to our shelter, because we can evaluate them before they get here. And we're never going to put you in a situation that we haven't trained you for. So just keep that in mind as you go through your training, and take the time that you need to feel comfortable walking in both the chaotic environment and the types of dogs we have. And take the time that you need to learn everything you need to know before you progress to the next training level. And then what we would need from dog walkers is we're asking people to commit to 1 or more hours a week during walking hours before 11 a.m. or after 5 p.m. And you could do both to getting dogs out of their kennels. And we also ask that you sign up on our volunteer informational page so we can keep track of your hours and things like that. So if you go to myvolunteerpage.com, you can sign up for a shift, and we really appreciate it when you do that, so we know we have appropriate coverage, but you're also not required to do it. So if you're like, oh, I got an hour right now, I'm going to come down and walk dogs, please come down. No one's ever going to turn you away from walking dogs. So how do you become a successful dog walker? First of all, we're asking that you're an independent thinker and worker. We teach you and we train you, and we're always here to answer questions, but oftentimes you're going to you're evaluating like when a dog has been out, and then you're going in a kennel on your own and putting on the equipment that we showed you how to use and getting the dog out and going to a yard by yourself. So, making good choices and reading dog body language and just saying, I can do this and I can't do this and I have this question, and being able to make those decisions and make smart decisions and asking questions when you need it. Like I said, don't ever be afraid to ask for help or a question. You see a lot of people rushing around, and everyone is busy. No one would disagree with that because there's 160 dogs, and there's only 4 staff members that their main job is to take care of those dogs on a daily basis. So while our staff is super busy, they're not unfriendly. So even if you're like, gosh, that person looks like they're in a hurry and they're super busy, I'm not going to ask a question. Don't think that. Just go ahead and stop them. Say, I have a question. I'm not sure how to put on this equipment, or this dog's been out 7 times. Is there something else I can do? Or anything like that. A staff member is more than happy to answer a question before you get into a situation that you're uncomfortable with, or if, they always know what other tasks need to get done during the day. So be sure and ask questions. Even if somebody looks busy, they want you to be successful. Sometimes somebody will tell you how to put on equipment if you have it on wrong, or maybe you're doing something that might not be super safe. It's because they're trying to, again, make you successful, and the safety of our dogs and people, volunteers, staff, and adopters is our top priority. So safety first. Don't take it personally if someone's like, hey, don't walk that close to the kennels or something like that. They're just trying to help you out because maybe you didn't know yet. So don't feel like it's personal. It's definitely them trying to help you be better at what you do. We want our dog walkers to be able to follow directions because, again, we're going to give you a lot of information, and then we're going to be like, here you go, good luck. Ask us questions if you have it. We don't always know if you have a question, so be sure and speak up. And then, like I said before, all of our dogs get out in every type of weather. So right now it's 95 degrees. We're still going to make sure all of our dogs get out before 11 a.m. and after 5 p.m. It's a little bit cooler. We're going to try to avoid the heat of the day as human beings and dogs. Dogs overheat a lot faster than humans, so we have to be very careful in the 100-degree weather. But we walk in rain, we walk in mud, heat, humidity, ice. Unless there's lightning, we're probably going to walk in any type of weather. And I don't know if you followed any of our social media, but you've probably seen that we flood more times than we'd like to. So that is actually one of the rare cases where we don't walk dogs because we're busy dealing with the emergency of maybe closing in dogs in the back or evacuating kennels or things like that. So, but there'll be somebody that can give clear instructions when it's pouring rain and the water is flooding into our kennels. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened more than once. So, if you ever see the weather get bad like that and you're like, I can help, come on down, wear your rain boots. We'll probably need you. So, rain, mud, heat, humidity, anything like that, we're going to walk dogs. So come on down even if it's raining. So here in the shelter, we color code our dogs according to their handleability inside the shelter. So you might find that a dog is super easy to handle inside the shelter, and then they have something outside the shelter that makes them a little bit more difficult to handle, or vice versa. And especially when we get to the silver dogs, you'll see a lot of on-leash reactivity that some people use the word aggressive, but that is not what we're seeing. But in the chaotic environment that the shelter is, the dogs have a different reaction than whereas they're out on the trail or in your house or whatever like that. They might have a completely different reaction to the situation. So again, it's everything that we see inside the shelter and how easy or how hard they are to handle and how much training we want you to have versus what they would be like out in the real world. So the first level of dogs that we have are pink collared dogs. And after one mentor session, you'll be able to get these guys out. They may jump a little, they may pull on leash a little, but overall they're going to be super easy to get out. They're not going to be interested in interacting with their neighbors, so you'll be able to walk right out. Super easy and smooth, without much problem. You might have a little difficult with the wiggles in the kennel, getting equipment on or getting your leash hooked up, but overall they're going to be pretty easy dogs to handle. And you'll notice that I added some dogs into these slides because you're probably getting bored just reading and listening to me talk. So after our pink collar dogs, is our orange collar dogs, and all that takes is a couple hours of walking pink dogs, and then you get with your mentor and sign up for orange. And there are scared and shy dogs, and this is your second mentor session. You can move through these pretty quickly if you feel comfortable with the training you've had and handling dogs inside the shelter environment. Again, our orange are scared and shy, so they might hide in the back. They might not want to be petted. They might not want to have a lot of human interaction, but they're actually the dogs that need us the most because this environment is super overwhelming. So just taking the time and being patient and respecting their space is super helpful, and they're super rewarding because we see a lot of progress with these dogs really quickly. So after you start walking orange dogs, you're eligible to sign up for our level 1 training, which will help you with our blue dogs. We call them JAM because they are jumpy and mouthy, JAM, and they are more likely to put their paws on you and jump on you in excitement. They may put their mouth on you, but again, this is all out of excitement, not aggression. I feel strongly that the blue collared dogs are still partially puppies, so they're probably going to be a little bit younger, but with not the puppy teeth, with super adult teeth. But when they were younger, like in a litter, dogs learn how to play and how to use their mouth appropriately and how hard that they can bite and how hard they shouldn't bite and when to use their teeth and when to use their paws and when to be calm, just by interacting with other dogs when they're younger. So I feel like they probably didn't get that sort of interaction when they were younger, so they don't know that they're not a puppy anymore. So this is a level 1 class, is a 3-week class that teaches you some basic leash skills. It teaches you some more kennel routines to help these dogs become more adoptable. And by the end of all your training, you've turned yourself into a dog trainer, which is really interesting because this never was my intention when I started volunteering. I just wanted to help dogs. And now all of a sudden I'm training dogs to be better and to, successfully transition into a home. And everything we do inside the kennel and inside of a yard and all of that is actually helping the dog be super successful in their home, because nobody wants a dog that jumps on them every time they come into their house. So through level 1 training, you learn some leash skills. You learn how to get into a kennel with a dog that might jump on you and what you do to interact with them. So that's a 3-week class, about an hour and a half a week. And then, so it's a 3-week class, 1 time a week. And then it culminates in a 4th class, which is our JAM class, that talks specifically about how to get these jumpy and mouthy dogs out of the kennel, both successfully, so neither the dog or the person gets into a situation that they're uncomfortable with, and 2, to help the dogs be more adoptable. So when a staff member gets them out for an adopter, they're not jumping and mouthing on an adopter. So it's definitely twofold by, training volunteers and strictly enforcing rules for these dogs so they're even more successful in their homes. So after you graduate level 1 in JAM class, you're welcome to take our level 2 class, which helps you learn to take out our silver dogs. Silver dogs are on-leash reactive. That means that they're probably going to bark and pull and lunge towards other dogs, but some people use the word aggressive when we're describing those dogs, and that's just not true. That might be frustration from being on a leash and not being able to access that dog in a positive way, because a lot of our dogs like to play with other dogs, and sometimes we give a lot of information just by how we hold the leash. So, our nervousness might be translating to those dogs, and then they are barking because they think the person is nervous about the dog, and they're like, "We'll keep that dog away from you. Don't worry, we'll take care of you," which is not helpful to their training plan. But again, it's a very chaotic environment. They might see dogs behind barriers, and that creates a frustration for them too because they can't access them. So they might, try to bark and pull back towards the kennels on either side of you. So our level 2 class is a 5-week, once-a-week class, about an hour and a half each. And that teaches you how to take those dogs safely out of the kennel and also work on some of that behavior and gaining eye contact and working on basic obedience and things like that to, again, make the dog more adoptable, to make them look better inside the shelter, and to just make sure that we're handling them appropriately so they're safe and they don't get into any sort of, little tiffs or anything like that with other dogs, and just that's what that class teaches. So if you're interested in working through all of those levels, we're so happy to have you here. Our level 1 class usually starts at the beginning of every month, approximately. And then our level 2 class is just kind of sporadic, structured into when we have enough people to take to teach the class. So, if a lot of blue people aren't signing up for silver, then we won't have a silver class. So just be patient after you get your blue training. But again, I have a volunteer that just finished his blue training, and he did from mentor session to blue trained in 6 weeks. So that is definitely a possibility if you feel comfortable in this environment and comfortable handling these dogs in this environment, because it's not always enough to be like, I had dogs when I was younger, or I own a dog, or things like that, because walking the dogs in the shelter environment is completely different than, taking them out of their soft bed in a home and walking them in a neighborhood where there's nobody barking at them. So just keep that in mind. And we love people that have dog experience, because you definitely have a step up. But just remember that it's a chaotic environment. So be patient and, sign up for the training when you feel like you're ready for it. So our final collar, our top of the line collar, is red. These dogs are not dangerous. These dogs are not any less adoptable than any other level of collar, because again, it's the handleability inside the shelter environment, not in the house. So our red collar dogs we restrict the amount of people that can handle them, because they have a very specific training plan to make them the most adoptable dog that they can be. So we just want to have their rules enforced and make sure nobody's going to get into a situation that they're not aware of. So most dogs have very lengthy conversations with our behavior staff, so you can take them out to make sure that you're handling them appropriately and we're following all the rules to make sure that we're not enforcing bad habits and only good habits. So again, they're not dangerous. They're not any less adoptable than any other collar dog. They just have a training plan. And the really cool thing about the red collar dogs is most of them have a pre-adoption training plan and a post-adoption training plan. So if a adopter comes in and wants to adopt one of those dogs, we're like, we know a lot about them, that we want to teach you about them before you even take them into your home, so you can be successful. And then we're going to follow up with you a lot to make sure that they're being successful in the home. So we're with that adopter through the whole process to make sure that the dog gets into a home and stays in a home. So again, not unadoptable, not scary, not dangerous. They just, in this environment, have shown behavior that we want to make sure the right people are handling them. Some things that you might hear as you go through your training and you meet more people and you start volunteering around here, and we just want to kind of nip that stuff in the bud before you even get started. So some of the myths you might hear are red collar dogs are dangerous and not adoptable. I hope that I covered that, just a few seconds ago. But again, they are not dangerous. They are not unadoptable. They are very adoptable. They have training plans. We're committed to making sure they're successful in their homes. So we enforce the rules here, and we enforce the rules in the home. Well, we don't enforce them, but we give the adopter a lot of rules and a lot of structure to make sure the dog is super successful in the home environment. Some people believe that only behavior dogs are on Stray 3. There are 3 runs of kennels. Stray 1 is when you come out of Building B through our adoption area, and then it's shaped in a U. So the bottom of the U is Stray 2, and then the far run of kennels is Stray 3. And we often put a lot of our dogs that get riled up easily on the back side of Stray 3, because there's not a lot of traffic back there. There's not dogs walking by, there's not a lot of people walking by, so they can just be a lot calmer. And in this stressful environment, they're not amped up all the time. So they have a chance to actually decompress. And I've heard people say that the pink dogs that are on Stray 3 are behavior pinks, and I don't know what that means, because there's no such thing as a behavior pink. A pink is a pink is a pink. It doesn't matter their location. So go over to Stray 3, start there. I know that there's at least 2 pink dogs over there right now. There might even be a couple more than that. So start there, and you'll be super happy about it. And then as you move up, you'll discover that the dogs, especially on the back of 3, get the most consistent work. So they're actually some of the easier dogs to take out, because you have a straight shot straight out of the kennel, and they get worked with because we want to make sure their rules are enforced. and that makes them safer and easier to handle because they know all of their obedience. So I think that's super cool. Some people believe that as soon as you get your first mentor session, you can just take a dog out to the trail or out and take them around the parking lot. We actually ask you to wait until after your level 1 training to do that kind of stuff. And we also have dogs that are trail tested by our rough tail runner team to specifically go out on the trail. So just because a dog, again, is easy to handle inside the shelter, they might not be that great on the trail. So we don't want you to take a pink dog out on the trail and then something happen to you or to that dog or to another dog because you didn't know how they would react on the trail. So we just ask you to stay inside of TLAC. You're not going to exit any buildings. You're not going to exit any gates. But there's plenty of yards, and we'll talk about that in a second, where you can take a dog and let them run around and interact with them. So there's 8 different yards that you can take a dog into. So don't feel like there's no place to go just because you can't take them for a walk. I talked about this. Silver dogs are dog aggressive and not adoptable. Again, dogs are in a super stressful environment, and if we have a bunch of dogs that probably aren't ever going to live with a dog. So just imagine like somebody that you hate is sitting next to you, talking to you all day, every day. Like you're going to get a little frustrated. You're going to get a little barky, or you're going to, as a human being, be like, you need to stop talking. But they're not dog aggressive. We try not to use that word when we describe any of our dogs because that scares people away. So we use the word on-leash reactivity. That means they're frustrated about the environment and they're barky and jumpy, and we might not ever see that in a home. And they're super adoptable. I've had people say like, oh gosh, I'm so surprised this silver dog is snuggly. I'm like, again, like the color doesn't matter in this situation. A dog is a dog is a dog. So if you get them out of the stressful environment, they're going to show their true colors, whether they're playful, they're snuggly, they're a clown, or whatever. It has nothing to do with their color, if they like people or not. Another myth that you might hear is, or might believe, is small dogs are easier. All of our dogs are pulled from the city shelter, and almost all of them are pulled from the euthanasia list, and that includes our small dogs. So oftentimes they get labeled bitey. We have a lot of bitey cheese, but in the city shelter and other shelters nearby, they have stacked kennels. So, a Chihuahua's kennel could be 6 or 8 feet off the ground. So oftentimes, handlers are reaching in there to pull a dog out so they can clean their kennel. 8 feet might be a little too high. Like 6 feet up, and people might be reaching in there, and not all dogs like to be reached towards, especially small dogs. So, a lot of shelters are reaching for dogs to get them out so they can clean their kennels, and then the Chihuahua's like, I don't like that, so they try to bite them. So here in our environment, we put even our small dogs into big dog kennels, so you can just walk into a kennel and pick up a leash and walk out, and you don't have to reach for a small dog, so they don't feel like they have to defend themselves. But that doesn't make them easier. So just keep that in mind. And a lot of our small dogs are orange dogs, so you'll get to them pretty fast in your training if you like the small dogs. We also have a Terrytown location with small dogs and puppies. So if none of this sounds appealing to you, we'll definitely send you in a different direction. You'll notice that a lot of our dogs have locks on their kennels. That does not mean they're dangerous. That does not mean they're unadoptable. It means that we live in a shelter that was built in the 70s and is falling down around our ears. Especially our rope locks are used to literally keep the doors shut. Because if a dog jumps on the kennel door just right, they'll just pop it open and then they'll be loose, and then that's not safe. So a lot of those rope locks are literally just holding the kennel shut. And a lot of our padlocks are for dogs that the staff want to have a conversation with you. So, for instance, Bria has a lock on her kennel because she can't wear a collar inside of her kennel because it rubs her skin. So the staff wants to say, have you taken Bria out? Have you taken Bria out? You know that she has a clip-on collar. Do you need any help with that? So that's all they want to do. They just want to have a conversation with you before you take out a dog. So if you ever get to a locked kennel, and you won't see that with pinks, but maybe with some oranges, if you ever get to a locked kennel, don't be like, oh, it's locked, I can't take the dog out. Just go find a staff member and say, I want to take out this dog. I was wondering what their deal is so I can be prepared for that and get the dog out safely. And some people believe that those locked orange dogs, the staff will just take care of. We really like it when volunteers take care of it. So again, they look busy, but they're super friendly. Just ask a staff member. And there are some volunteers that also have keys as well. And they're happy to unlock that dog for you and talk to you about why the dog is locked. So don't be afraid of the locked dogs. You might have found it or heard about it already, but there's a dog volunteer Facebook group if you're a Facebooker. This is not a place to communicate important information about an individual dog. So you're like, oh, that dog was limping and seemed dehydrated. I'm going to go post about it in this Facebook group. There's ways to communicate that at the shelter, and those are things that probably should be communicated immediately. But we have in our courtyard a area where you can write behavioral notes and medical notes about dogs. And the staff checks that midday and at the end of the night and make sure the dogs are being taken care of. So if there's something that's an emergency, you should find a staff member right away and let them know. But if it's things like diarrhea or they don't seem to be eating or things like that, then we can write it down and the staff can take care of it during the middle of the day. So don't expect any staff member to give you information in that group because it's a for volunteer by volunteer group. So talk to somebody on campus in the moment and make sure that dog gets taken care of. And I just want to reiterate that every single one of our dogs are saved from euthanasia for either behavioral, space, or medical reasons. We are their second chance, and sometimes we're their third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chance because we're very committed to making sure that our dogs are successful in the home. So we always take them back if there's something in the home that the adopter can't handle, or if the adopter they adopted a puppy and they're like, oh, what did I do? Take back all of our animals. We also have a very robust adoption follow-up program where a full-time staff member is following up with adopters that are having behavioral programs. So just remember that, when things seem super sad or like you get really depressed about a dog, just know that one, they're here until they get adopted, even if it takes a while. And two, like we saved their life. So they're already, on their second chance, and that's super exciting. So ask questions and let us know what you need. Playgroup is a huge reason why Austin Pets Alive is super successful. We are modeled on the Dogs Playing for Life program. Check it out on Facebook, and it's super exciting. It's a great program because it gets dogs out efficiently and quickly. It gets them out into play yards and lets them be social with other dogs, even if we don't think that they can live with other dogs. And it also helps them expend energy. So our super social dogs will often stay out to playgroup for 2 hours. I'd say the average time for a dog out in a playgroup is probably between 15 and 20 minutes. So, and that's romping with dogs like at recess. So, just think about that when you're looking at the whiteboard, which we'll get into here in a second, and deciding if you should take the dog that only is only going to walks or dogs that are going to playgroup, because playgroup is super beneficial for everything there is about a dog. It's efficient because staff can get out a lot more dogs in a shorter amount of time. So just think about, getting 40 dogs out for playgroup in 2 hours versus 4 people trying to give a dog a 10-minute walk. The same amount of dogs is just going to take a lot longer. So, they get out, they socialize, they're running around. So that helps in many ways. One way is that we can talk to an adopter about how we think a dog will interact with other dogs, either like at a dog park or a one-on-one situation, living with another dog. We can make some pretty good educated guesses about that. And then that also makes them tired. So I've often had adopters say, I want to take out this dog because he looks so calm in his kennel. And I'm just like, well, he just ran around for 2 hours. So of course he's calm in his kennel because he's exhausted. So it just helps decrease the stress that's in the shelter, and it gives them a chance to interact with dogs and be social, and that kind of stuff. So if there's two dogs of your level that haven't been out before 11 a.m. or after 5 p.m., go, okay, that dog isn't going to playgroup, so I'm going to walk that dog first. And that's super important as you move up in level in your training, because, you know, you could get to blues, and we have a lot more blues and silvers than we do pinks and oranges. So, you know, if you're looking at the board and you're like, gosh, that blue dog who has a lot of energy and is going to jump and mouth me is supposed to go to playgroup, I'm going to let that dog go to playgroup, because that way he's too tired to jump on me, and hopefully we can get them downgraded. So letting the dogs that are labeled playgroup dogs go to playgroup is super beneficial. And, you know, choosing to walk them over a dog that is not going to playgroup, it actually deprives them of a super positive part of living in a shelter, because playgroup can be super beneficial for all the collar colors, and just like, since we don't have a lot of pink collared dogs right now, a lot of them don't end up going to playgroup because there's a lot of walkers that walk them. So, you know, but even just like that little social interaction that they have with other dogs is super beneficial. Our orange dogs it's highly beneficial for them because often they're scared of people. But they really love dogs. So, you know, a person's coming into their kennel, they're like, oh my gosh, that person's coming into my kennel, this is scary. And then, you know, they're kind of creeping along over to the play yard, and they're like, wait a second, this person's taking me to meet other dogs? Cool. And then they go in the play yard and you see them just blossom. You know, it's just a couple minutes playing with other dogs, and you're like, gosh, their tail's untucked, they're super happy, they're running around. You know, and as they continue to go to playgroup, they start relating a human being the source of them getting to go to playgroup. So they start opening up to humans too. So it's really fun to watch those orange dogs blossom into playgroup. And I talked about it a little bit, but getting our blue dogs to go to playgroup is super beneficial to them, because the reason why they're so jumpy and mouthy is because they have all this pent up energy. So if they can go to playgroup and run around for even 10 minutes, that's hugely beneficial versus, you know, going into a yard and maybe like they have to be leash walked only, or, you know, you're like, I only have time to make sure that they get a poop today. So there's, you know, you only have like a 10-minute interaction, and they're going right back to their kennel and they didn't get to expend all that energy. So, you know, making sure that the dogs that don't go to playgroup get walked first is super helpful. And then letting the dogs that love playgroup go to playgroup is also super helpful. And then our silver dogs, sometimes they might not be able, well, any of our dogs might not be able to live with other dogs, but this is a super great coping mechanism for them, because they're like, okay, I can have this positive interaction that's monitored by a human recess, you know, the lunch lady, the recess lady, or gentleman. It's monitored, you know, so the dog is safe, but they're staying out of it for the most part. They're letting dogs make decisions and letting them, you know, interact and have positive interactions with dogs. So even if we send a dog home, we're like, no dog parks, no interactions with other dogs, can't live with other dogs, they have learned that dogs are not scary because of playgroup, right? So they're like, oh, there's a dog, you know, 10 feet away. That's cool. I'm going to keep moving on, instead of reacting to them and having on-leash reactivity. So the dogs that are labeled playgroup, that are silver dogs, is super helpful when they get to playgroup, because they get to have that coping mechanism. Equipment. All of our dogs are wear martingale collars, except for our small dogs. They'll usually have a harness on. But a martingale collar is they call it like a no-slip collar, because it tightens to a certain point when a dog is pulling on leash, so they cannot slip over their head. And we're also, again, we're training dogs as we're walking them. It also teaches them that, oh gosh, if I pull, I feel this pressure on my neck. I don't like that pressure. So they're going to come closer to you and take that pressure off. So you don't have to say anything to this dog, like come, heel, whatever. You're just going to let them go to the end of the leash and go, I don't like that. And then they're going to make a better decision, and then they're going to come back towards you. So everything that we're teaching a dog that wears a martingale is to make better decisions on their own. So again, that transfers to an adopter, because, you know, we don't have to tell the adopter, well, this dog only knows heel. Instead, we taught them what pressure and release is. So they're like, oh gosh, I don't like it when that collar is tight on my neck. I'm going to not pull so much. So every single one of our dogs have a martingale. If they don't have a martingale, please talk to a staff member before you take them out. A lot of our pink dogs will have either a gentle leader or easy walk. So on your right-hand side, that's a gentle leader. It's a loop that goes over the muzzle and then clips behind their ears. And then we attach the ring to our leash, and then we back it up on their collar. we like the backup in the shelter environment. But gentle leader, a lot of people say, why is your dog on a muzzle? You say it's not, because it can still bite you. It's like a horse bridle, and you put it over their muzzle so you can help guide their head in the direction that you want them to go. And it's super helpful for dogs that like to pull, or even some on-leash reactivity, just because we can help the dog get out of a situation faster versus just on the martingale. And it takes the pressure off their neck, and it puts it on the back of their head, on their muzzle, and so it gives them a different form of communication. And then the other piece of equipment you'll see is a pink walker, is an easy walk harness. It clips underneath the legs, and the ring is at their chest. So instead of feeling the pressure at their neck, they feel it at their chest, and then we back it up again on the leash with the collar. But those are the two pieces of equipment you'll see, and your mentor will go over how to put all that stuff on a stuffed dog before you get it on a real dog, so you can kind of get a handle on it before you jump into real life situation. And you might find that some of the pink dogs don't have any equipment, and that is also okay. So what do you need to walk a dog? A lot of this equipment is here at TLAC. But if you want to be guaranteed that you have all of these things, you should bring them yourself, because all of the things that you see at the shelter are strictly on donations. So 1 week we might have 20 leashes, and the next week we might not have any, because somebody came and walked a dog and they took the leash home and they never came back. So if you want to make sure you have all this equipment, I suggest getting your own. Something that you should have is a 4 or 6 foot leash. It should be a flat leash. We don't want people using waist leashes like they do on the trail inside of the shelter environment, because you can get, a dog can get 6 or 8 feet in front of you, and then you don't, and can go around a corner, and there could be another dog coming around at the same time. So you just don't have the control over the dog like you would when you have a flat leash. And I know on the trail they also have some of those stretchy leashes. And again, like a dog could get to 8 to 10 to 12 feet in front of you, and then go around a corner when you're not close enough to do anything about it. And then something really bad could happen. So a 4 or 6 foot flat leash is definitely beneficial if you're planning on walking dogs and continue to walk dogs for a few months. I like the 4 foot leash, but I'm kind of short. So it's just your preference. And again, depending on donations, there might be a leash nearby. But if you're going to make this part of your weekly routine, I would definitely suggest getting a leash that you're comfortable with, and then the length, and you know that there's not poop on it and that kind of stuff. And then I would also suggest bringing treats and something to carry them in. A lot of us have these fancy treat pouches, but also like a fanny pack, or like those short aprons from Home Depot. Like all that kind of stuff works really well in this environment, as long as you have something that can keep your hands free and you can still dispense treats as necessary. You can bring poop bags. All of our yards have pooper scoopers in them, so you don't need to have poop bags to make sure the poop gets picked up. But again, that depends on donations, and if nobody's donated poop bags in a couple of weeks, then there's just not poop bags around. So feel free to bring your own. We highly suggest sturdy closed-toed shoes. It's dirty here. There's poop here. The dogs might step on you. There's lots of things to trip over. So we highly suggest not wearing flip-flops or things you can walk out of, because, accidentally stepping out of your shoe into maybe the not cleanest pile of something would not be ideal. So highly suggest sturdy closed-toed shoes. You'll feel better about it. And you'll feel safer, and you probably won't trip. Your clothes will probably get dirty, especially as you get more and more training. I can't walk out of this place without being covered in dirt. We're going to go with dirt. It's probably dirt, but it's probably also poop, because there's lots of poop here. So just recognize that you're going to get dirty. And you're probably going to dump your clothes at your, right in your garage as soon as you get home, instead of taking them into your house. And then things that we suggest you don't bring is valuables you can't keep on your person. We don't suggest flip-flops, clothes you'd hate to see dirty, that kind of stuff. So that's what you need to walk dogs. So I know that I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and you're not even at TLAC, so it's hard to even point out what we're doing even just sitting in your home. So don't worry, there's plenty of ways to find out information. Again, asking, that's definitely your first line of defense, is to ask a question of any of the staff members or a volunteer or even the receptionist. They can definitely get you started to make sure you can be successful. And then we also have ways to communicate to volunteers without too much trouble. Without, if you don't want to interact with a person, because a lot of us are dog people and not people. So the best way to get information about dogs is on our whiteboards, and each run of kennels has their own whiteboard. So there's 3 whiteboards, and that will communicate their collar color, if they're going to playgroup, if there's any special handling notes, what time they've been out, that kind of thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then we also have our safety checklists on every single kennel underneath their bio card. There's a checklist of things that will help you successfully take out the dog. There are several play yards that you can take dogs to, and we'll talk about those as well in a second. And then our 10 and 5 foot rule is super important. This is, again, to keep everybody safe. The 10-foot rule is to keep dogs apart 10 feet at all times. So just be super aware of your environment and things that are happening around you, so you don't accidentally, you're not looking down when you walk out of a kennel and you accidentally walk into another dog. So we're going to keep our dogs 10 feet away from each other at all times. So that means that we're not going to share play yards with another dog unless they share a kennel. We're not going to, like, hey, I need a poop bag. We're not going to try to, hand off a poop bag to somebody when you both have dogs, because I've seen that happen with pink dogs and it wasn't pretty. And then our 5-foot rule is to keep people 5 feet away from your dog at all times, unless you know them really well, because we just don't always know how a dog will react to a person, whether they're a kid. Some of our dogs don't like male human beings. Some adopters don't really understand that dogs need a slow introduction. So if somebody approaches you and says, I'd like to pet your dog, if you don't know them very well, just say, actually, I would love to get a staff member out here so you can meet the dog. They just know a lot more about the dog than I do. So just keeping them 5 feet away from all people, especially children, because some of our dogs don't necessarily like kids. And then that, and don't be afraid to use your firm voice or your stern voice and be like, I do not want you near my dog right now. Let me get a staff member for you. And that way we just keep everybody safe, and then the staff can be responsible to introduce that dog in a safe manner. And then who do you talk to when you have a question? There's a medical and behavioral clipboard in the courtyard, or it'll be by the whiteboard on Stray 2. And you can go ahead and write the dog's name and write whatever you've noticed about them. And the staff will either put it on their monitor list, or they'll take care of it after morning walks or after evening walks. And if you think it's something that needs to be said right away, please find a staff member. They all should have staff t-shirts on. If you don't see anybody like that, look for somebody with a walkie-talkie, or just ask if they're a staff member. And if you can't find any of those people, you can head to Building B, which is where you come in to TLAC, and just ask a receptionist to tell a counselor about the note that you have, or ask them if they could get one up there, get a counselor up there so you can have a conversation with them. You can always ask a shift lead. They know who the staff is, and then they also know a lot of answers to your questions. They'll always be wearing a bright green t-shirt or a green armband. There are shift leads that these are volunteers that have taken on the role every evening after 5 p.m. So if you're around at 6 p.m. and you're like, gosh, I have this question, just go find somebody wearing a bright green t-shirt. We have every evening filled. So there should always be a shift lead there in the evening. If you're there in the mornings, you're less likely to find a shift lead, but it's easier to find staff members because they're running dogs to playgroup. And like I said, I'm there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday mornings. So feel free to hunt me down and ask me questions, get you started in what you need to do. Or if you're like, gosh, this dog has this health problem, I'd be happy to tell you how to make sure that dog is seen to and make sure that they're healthy and happy. You can always ask your mentor if you have a question once you get to that point. You can also talk to the receptionist if you can't find any of the above people. And then Monica Dangler is our volunteer coordinator, and she is happy to answer any of your questions. It's just her name Annika.dangler@austinpetsalive.org. She can guide you in the right direction. She can make sure your questions are answered. She can tell you who to talk to if you have an issue. Whiteboards. So, like I said, on each run of kennels, all 3, there is a whiteboard that has all the information that you'll need to be able to take a dog out successfully. And they all look the same. So they'll have the kennel number, what the dog's name is, if they're going to playgroup or not, and that's super important in the morning because we want to make sure all the W's get out first and give the staff a chance to get all the playgroup dogs out. So concentrate on the W's first, and then there'll be the next column, the third, 1, 2, 3, the fourth column over is what collar color they are. So that's probably the first column you're going to look in, so you can search out a pink, and then you can go left and right to figure out what you need to know about that dog, including their name. And then in the 5th column, special instructions. So it might say something like closing the neighbors or acclimating to a gentle leader or things like that. So that will give you some hints on how to take that dog out successfully. So be sure and read that every time because the staff updates it every time something changes. So, you might go and be like, I'm going to take out Pearl today. And then like, oh crap, she's a blue today. And then there'll probably be a note about why she got changed to a blue. And then if you have any questions still, you can ask a staff member, but just because they were pink on Wednesday doesn't mean you can still take them out on Thursday if their collar color changed. So just be sure and ask staff, and remember the whiteboard is always correct, and they might not have changed out their collar. So, if a dog gets changed from an orange to a blue, they might still have an orange column on, but the whiteboard says they're a blue, so they're a blue. But if there's any discrepancy, just ask, and we're happy to clarify that. And then the next column is the training collar. So that would be where the easy walk is noted or the gentle leader. It might also have some other initials like DL, which is a drag leash, and a lot of our small dogs have that, and our orange dogs, so it's easier to handle them. And then the next column, which has changed a little bit, it's our daily playgroup walk column. So sometimes even the dogs that are supposed to go to playgroup might not get out to playgroup, so we'll adjust that column to indicate that. But mostly just, check out the 3rd column over for playgroup and walk information. And then the next row is the kennel number again, just because the kennel number is so far away. And then there's 4 columns where you can sign out the time that you take out the dog. So you want to do that first before you even get to the kennel, because if you take the dog out without signing them out, somebody else will be like, oh, I'm going to take out Pearl. And they get to Pearl's kennel and the dog's already gone. And then we're like, where'd the dog go? So be sure and sign the dog out every time before you take out the dog. And then you might notice if you're walking dogs in the evening that there might be smiley faces in the final column. That just means the dog has been out to playgroup after 4 or out for a walk after 5. So it's just an easy way for the staff to be like, okay, all these dogs have been out. There's no smiley faces for these 7 dogs, so I'm going to walk these dogs next. So in addition to the whiteboard, we have dog walking safety checklists. So a lot of the information is the same, but there also might be a little bit more information on the kennel cards, the safety checklist. So in front of every dog's kennel, they have a bio with their picture and how they are with dogs, cats, kids, and home alone. They'll also have a bio on those eventually, and that's something you can help with, both to write it and to get information to our writers. But underneath that kennel card that the adopters see, there's a dog walking safety checklist. So you should check this every time you take out a dog, even if you've taken the dog out before, you've taken the dog out multiple times. If something has changed since the last time you took them out, it'll be written on the safety checklist or on the whiteboard. So be sure and check that, and it's just another way to successfully and safely take out a dog. So I imagine at this point you're pretty overwhelmed with all the information we're throwing at you, but don't feel like you have to memorize any of this stuff, or the little quizzes after this is super easy if you've listened to the whole thing. So don't worry, your mentor will go over all of this kind of stuff with you. And I know that you haven't even made it into our location yet, so I imagine that this is all going to be foreign until you actually walk in and you go, oh, okay, I get it. So when you pull into our parking lot, we have a building over to your left. It's called Building A. Our conference room and our administrative offices are in that building. Building B is where our dog adoptions happen. You can also use the computer to sign in there. You always have to go in and out of Building B to get in and out of the kennel space. To your left, there'll be AAC dogs when you exit Building B. They have a whole different set of rules, so we don't take out any of those dogs. But you're more than welcome to take the Austin Animal Center orientation, and they will teach you how to take out their dogs. They're coming along and doing a lot of the things that we do to handle our dogs. So, it's very much transferable skill set, but there's just different paperwork to fill out and different protocols that the city has to follow versus, Austin Pets Alive as a nonprofit has to follow. So to your right, when you exit Building B, there'll be all of our dogs. We have approximately 160 dog kennels. So there's dogs on the front and back of Stray 1, Stray 2, and Stray 3. Our small dogs and puppies are on the back of Stray 2, and you'll find that adopters ask you that question a lot, where are your small dogs? So you just have to go through a hallway, and then they'll be on the back of Stray 2. You'll see these dotted lines in this slide, and those are our playpens. So there's some on the parking lot side of Stray 1. There's some in the courtyard. There's 2 long runs way in the back at the top of the hill. And then there's a short pen right there next to those as well. And then there's 2 big yards that playgroup happens in. So if you're ever in a pen that's shorter than 4 feet, there's also a tether. So you want to hook a dog's collar up to that to make sure that they don't jump out of the yard, because they can do that in a second. And then, again, there's whiteboards in the middle of Stray 1 and Stray 2, Stray 3. So there's 3 different whiteboards. And then we also, in our truck port, there's bowl washing, there's Kong washing, there's yoga mat scrubbing. Our ice chest is back there. So that's an important place that you'll get to know about. And then right next to that, inside the building behind Stray 2, there's also our laundry room that we always need help with. We never catch up on laundry because, as soon as you put down 160 blankets, you got to pick them up and put down another 160 blankets. So, and we put down blankets twice a day. So we're essentially going through 320 blankets approximately, at least every day, blankets and towels. So just keep that in mind when you're like, gosh, I don't know if they need my help. We absolutely need your help to fold laundry. So, even if you haven't got your mentor session in yet, come down and we'll put you to work. So oftentimes as a pink volunteer, or a volunteer that has been mentored, you might run out of dogs to walk pretty quickly, because I think we have approximately 5 pink dogs right now. But don't worry, don't leave. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff to do. So stick around, find a mentor, find a staff member, and they'd be more than happy to get you started. And just some of the tasks that we need help with every single day, any time of day, is not handing out blankets. We usually do that in the morning and the afternoon, but we need your help cleaning poopy kennels. We call those poop fairies, and we love our poop fairies, and we'd be more than happy to show you how to do that. Super easy. When it's cold outside, we'll close the dogs in on the back, so we'll need help, approximately 8 p.m. to make sure all the dogs are tucked in and warm. You can always shadow another volunteer to meet more dogs. Especially the shift leads, they're more than happy to have you tag along so you can meet, some of our blue and silver and orange dogs. So you can be like, yeah, I want to do that. That's awesome. There's always bowls to be washed because we feed our dogs, and then we got to pull up the bowls and we got to clean them. So at least 160 bowls every day need to be washed. You can help refill waters in the kennels. And we'll get you started on that. Just ask a staff member. You can always, just keep our campus clean by picking up balls and treats and that kind of stuff and trash. And then we also always need, you can help make the kennel carts pretty by wiping them down and getting the bird poop and stuff like that off. So there's definitely plenty of stuff to do. If you're interested in our Click for Quiet program, you can go to myvolunteerpage.com and sign up for one of those shifts, and there's a video on there that you can watch. That is also me. So if you're looking for somebody that seems to know what they're doing, just look for me. That's what I look like in that video too. And then there's always laundry to do. We have an enrichment team that stuffs Kongs and gets them out at least 4 times a week, and we're looking to increase that team every single day so we can get enrichment out to our dogs 7 times a week. So it's super helpful. And then just scooping the poop in the yards. There's always poop to pick up. So you sat through my talking for the last, 45 minutes. So, and you're still excited to walk dogs? Yay! Good for you. So, just the next step is to fill out the dog questionnaire, and you'll submit that, and then you'll be able to see mentor sessions, and it might take a couple weeks to get into a mentor session, but you're going to go into myvolunteerpage.com to do your dog questionnaire and submit that, and then also to sign up for a mentor session. Just be patient. Again, those are volunteers that are teaching the classes, so it's very dependent on their schedule. If you have weekday morning availability, you're usually more likely to find a mentor session. The weekends they fill up pretty fast, so look for those weekday sessions if you have that kind of availability. And then once you have gotten your first mentor session in, sign up to walk dogs, and then make a commitment to yourself and to the dogs that you're going to come every hour, once a week for at least an hour, 1 day a week, and just put it in your schedule that you're coming, let's say, Wednesdays from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And no matter what, no matter the weather, no matter how tired you are, you're like, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to fill my my requirements and make sure all these dogs get out at the time that I signed up. And then you feel free to come down today and help out around TLAC. We have so much to do. Just ask the receptionist to get you started. She'll probably grab a staff member and they'll show you what to do. So the hardest part, especially as I've talked to new volunteers lately, is making the first step and coming down to TLAC. So if you just come down and say, I want to help, we will get you to work. So what we need from you is to make a commitment after your first mentor session. Sign up for 1 shift a week, for 1 hour a week. That's all we're asking right now. And come out and walk a dog. And if all the dogs have been walked, stick around for the rest of your hour and see if there's something else you can help with. And then after your second mentor session and your boo training, we're asking that you sign up for walking shift during walking hours. So that's before 11 a.m. or after 5 p.m. every day of the week. I say but you could do both. I walk dogs 6 days a week. So don't feel like you're only restricted to 1 hour a week. And don't feel like we ask for this 1 hour that you commit and sign up on myvolunteerpage.com so we can see that you'll be here for that shift. But if you're like, I got some free time, come on down too, because we're never going to turn away a volunteer. But if you are able to commit and you're able to sign up for a shift, that's so much more helpful to us because we can look at the schedule for the week and go, oh no, we don't have any orange walkers on Wednesday afternoons. And then we can start putting pleas out to, make sure that we have walkers that cover all the shifts all the time. We also have a Boo Dogs team. So if you're interested in learning more about those dogs and helping them progress a little bit faster, you can join that after your second mentor session and your Boo training. And then after your level 1 and your jam class, again, we're asking for at least an hour a week during walking hours where you come and walk blue dogs. So, in that hour, we ask that you get out 3 or 4 dogs instead of just taking 1 dog out and going to the trail or 1 dog out and going to Davenport for your hour. So you're making commitment to make sure that all the dogs get the same amount of care in the time that you're there. And then, so if you can commit to 1 hour to do that, and you still have another hour that week, then maybe you'll spend another hour like running dogs to playgroup or, giving dogs enrichment versus, just making sure as many dogs get out for a walk as possible so they're not holding it forever and ever and ever. So once you pass your jam class, you have a couple options in addition to walking. You can become a behavior buddy where you meet with our behavior team and come up with a one-on-one behavior plan for a dog you're interested in. So again, we're teaching you to be dog trainers, which is super exciting. And the behavior team is super excited to have you because a lot of our dogs, we're outnumbered dogs to people, right? We only have 4 behavior staff members that work with dogs. So, and there's 160 dogs. So we rely heavily on our volunteers. So if you're interested in learning more about dog behavior and working with an individual dog, you can do that after your jam class. And then it's best if you have blue training, if you want to run dogs to playgroup, because a lot of the dogs that go to playgroup are blue or silver dogs. So, but it's super fun to run dogs to playgroup. You get to practice all the skills you've learned, and you get to watch dogs interact. And if you're interested in learning more about playgroup, you can head up to the yard, the big yard. Just ask, somebody will show you where it is, and just watch some of playgroup. And playgroup happens twice a day, every day. In the morning, we get out about 60 dogs, and we start about 8:15 and go to about 11:30. And probably around 10ish is when it's the most exciting and has the most dogs in it. And then in the afternoon, we run a smaller playgroup of about 30 dogs, and that's between about 4:15 and 6. So if you want to learn more about playgroup, just come down, and the person that's in the yard, kind of being in charge of all those dogs out there, they're happy to have a conversation with you and talk to you more about the Dogs Playing for Life model and what we do here at TLAC. So you listen to this whole orientation at your computer, and you're like, none of that sounds nice to me. I don't like the heat. I don't like a lot of poop. And I don't really want to walk big dogs. And that's okay, because we've got so much stuff that you can do. So a couple of the options that you can do, that if you're not interested in walking our big dogs at TLAC, we have a very robust matchmaking program. We have 3 staff members that help adopters find their perfect companion. They're always looking for more people to help with that, and we can use you to help with the small dogs and puppies, because a lot of people have questions about puppies. So just hanging out and back where all the puppies are kept and just answering people's questions is super helpful. And then getting a puppy out for an adopter is super fun, right? And then we also have our Terrytown location, which has a lot of our small dogs and puppies. There's a separate orientation for that. It's about 30 minutes, just so they can show you how to interact with the dogs while staff is cleaning. So it's super fun. There's really nothing not fun about Terrytown, especially if you like small dogs and puppies. On the weekends, we have off-site locations, and a lot of our small dogs and puppies end up going to those locations. And often it's only one staff member there. So if you've got some free time, check out our website, austinpetsalive.org/locations. And on the weekends, they'll tell you what dogs are where, so you can just head out to the PetSmart over on off of Brody and just say, hey, I'm a volunteer, can I help you, what do you need help with? And you can talk to adopters, you can give the staff member a break so they can take a bathroom break, and then hang out with puppies. So that's not bad, right? We also have a ton of at-home opportunities. If you want to be a bio writer, if you want to work with our foster team, if you want to answer emails or that kind of stuff, just email Monica and she will put you in contact with people that need help. Our dog enrichment team is, again, gaining a lot of traction, but it takes a lot of people and a lot of time to clean all the enrichment, which is mostly Kongs right now, and then fill them up and then put them in the freezer and distribute them. So if you're interested in learning more about our dog enrichment team, you can email dog.enrichment@austinpetsalive.org and get started over there. Again, lots of work from home jobs, so just email Monica and she'll point you in the right directions. We have cats, so they tell me. So if dogs really aren't up your alley, we can get you started on cat opportunities. There's several off-site locations as well as different sections of TLAC that have cats here too. So there's plenty to do with the cats as well. We're trying to get an ambassador program kind of off the ground. So our development director is looking for people to help with that. And it's kind of a twofold project. One, on the weekends, we just want people to hang out in front of where donations are dropped off to say thank you and hand out in-kind donation forms or things like that if people are interested, just so people know that their donation is needed and appreciated. So that's a pretty easy part of the program. And then the other part would be working with businesses, the development team working with businesses to develop relationships where we take dogs to businesses and talk about APA. So if you're interested, we can get you started in that program as well. We have greeters in front of Building B, our adoption building, that just help guide the traffic flow. if you're interested in talking to the public before they even go in, to help them, kind of orient themselves. We always need help feeding dogs on the weekends. It's just not a staff position that we fill, because it's hard to keep somebody just for a couple of days of the week, especially on the weekends. So we depend solely on volunteers to feed the dogs on the weekend. So if you're like, gosh, it's Saturday morning, I don't know if they need my help, absolutely, come on down. We start feeding dogs a little bit before 8 a.m., and the more the merrier, and the dogs get fed and they're happier. And then if you want to help make the shelter a little less chaotic, we have a Click for Quiet program, and just go to myvolunteerpage.com, sign up for Click for Quiet, and there's a video you can watch to get you started on that, and then there's clickers right next to the sign-in computer. But if you want to make sure you have a clicker, it probably wouldn't hurt to get your own, and they're only a couple bucks at PetSmart. So thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Jess. I'm so happy to answer any of your questions in person, and anything that you have questions about right now, I would email Monica, and she will direct you in the right direction. And then, again, the most challenging part of volunteering is taking that first step. So head down to TLAC. That's the one on Cesar Chavez, and we will get you started. Thanks so much.